Was Khris Middleton almost a wizard? Man, we're gonna just ask Bradley Beal. He'll let you guys know. We're gonna react to some comments by Bradley Beal, and the NBA GMs have some love for Bub Carrington. Let's talk about it next on Locked On Wizards.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Brandon Scott again, and I appreciate you guys making Locked On Wizards your first listen every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Man, today we got special guest Greg Finberg. Man, look, he is a Penn State Nittany Lion. He has contributed to Bulls Forever, and definitely check out his podcast, the Wizards Podcast. Must see, must listen TV, man. So definitely appreciate you coming on tonight, man. You staying busy, huh?
I'm trying to. I got a lot going on, but the Wizards always take first priority. And like I told Brandon before, this show always takes first priority. So anytime Brandon asks me to come on, I'm always happy to join.
Hey, man, much appreciated, man, because it's always a good time when you come on, man. So, again, definitely appreciate you coming on the show, man. So, Bradley Beal made some comments on the podcast, so we're going to respond and kind of react to those comments. And there was an NBA GM poll, and Bub Carrington got a lot of love around the league. So, let's get into the comments made by Bradley Beal. I'm going to go over three comments that kind of ring true to me a little bit, and then I'm asking a few questions about the real deal Bradley Beal, because for some reason, he always makes it back to D.C. in some shape or form, man. So, comment number one. It says, quote unquote, Bradley Beal said, you get to a point where you're like, we're going to lose anyway. It becomes normal. The guys around you aren't mad anymore. And you just start looking forward to the 1st and the 15th, the paychecks. Whoa. All right. So the second quote that really rung true to me was he kind of responded to the new front office of Will Dawkins and Michael Winger. He says, the minute DC made that change in the front office, them boys ain't waste no time. Hey, they said, hey, B, we think it's time. When I heard that, I said, that's probably one of the most respectful things I've heard in 11 years. I don't know if I believe that, but it is what it is. All right, so then the third quote that really kind of stood out to me was he said they were trying to trade Khris Middleton. The loyalty part in that, trading somebody who won y'all championship the previous year and was a key piece to y'all winning the championship, it didn't sit right with me. And also in the conversation wasn't really brought out, but he also mentioned that in order for a potential deal with the Milwaukee Bucks, Khris Middleton would have to enact or waive his no trade clause. And Bradley Beal did make the comment that why would a player waive his no trade clause to go to DC? So my question for you tonight, Greg, number one, are Wizards fans who are they within their rights to have an issue with Bradley Beal on the way he kind of left the organization, or are they kind of overreacting? And right now, what truly is his legacy in DC?
So to answer the first part, this has been my stance when I've heard, people getting mad at Brad because he had a great contract, one of the biggest in the NBA, had a no trade clause, had all of these perks of being in DC, and they were paying him like he was the number one option when realistically, like you see in Phoenix, he's a number 3. Why that hate was directed at Brad never made sense to me. Like most NBA players, like you're going to your job, you're trying to get paid as much as possible. He's got a family to support. He's a great player. Now he's not a number one option, but Bradley Beal didn't pay himself $250 million over 5 years. Bradley Beal didn't give himself a no trade clause. Tommy Shepard did. Ted Leonsis okayed it. And so if you're going to be mad at people, don't direct it at the guy who earned his way into the league and accepted. If anyone is listening and they get offered $250 million, I don't think they're going to be like, you know what, keep it. I don't think I'm worth that. I want less. That's never going to be the case. So for the hate to be directed at Brad, I feel like it was always misguided, misdirected, and made no sense to me. And so if you're going to be mad at somebody for how bad that contract was, direct it at the general manager, direct it at the owner that okayed that contract, but don't direct it at the player that just signed on the dotted line. So that's the first part. The second part, what was the second part of the question?
To you, what is his legacy in DC?
It's tough because I put out an article, I think not this past summer, but the summer before on Bullets Forever. And I discussed my Mount Rushmore of Washington Wizards. I had John, definitely. I had Elvin Hayes. I had Wes Unseld, and I had Bradley Beal. And to me, it was between Walt Bellamy, Bradley Beal, and Gilbert Arenas. And look, if you look at his body of work, statistically speaking, Bradley Beal is arguably a top 2 player in franchise history. I think he's the all-time leading scorer, or maybe I think he's missed that by like 130 points, but he's number 2. And I think he's top 5 in most major statistical categories. So going off pure stats, Bradley Beal is definitely a top 4, top 5 player. When you look at legacy, like I love how people are like, he never won anything here. Nobody has since 1978, 79. So like, if you're looking at all-time Wizards, John didn't win anything here. Apart from those, championship teams, nobody did either. So if that's the case, then you got to take John Wall out of that top 4, top 5 too. So when you're talking about legacy with Wizards players, I don't know why people are like, well, they didn't win anything here. That was the 2017 was the most successful Wizards team since they made the conference final in 1978, 79. So in the grand scheme of things, over the last 40, 50 years, John and Brad's team was the most successful since then. So on this barometer of Bradley Beal has a bad legacy in DC because he accepted $250 million and he made it almost to the conference final, the best that anybody has gotten since 78, 79. Why the hate is guided at him instead of the people that gave him a bad contract, didn't put a good enough team around him and John, and messed all of that up? That's on them. It's not on Brad. So I think Brad's left a good legacy. And that's not even to talk about the community stuff, because we can get into all that as well. But, I mean, the amount of money he poured into D.C. and the surrounding areas, the amount of money put into the schools, to his youth programs, like, we can talk about that. But if we're talking just pure basketball as well, he left a pretty damn good impact on D.C. So I think, it's misguided hate. I think it should be put somewhere else and not towards Brad.
I agree, man. I definitely agree with most of your points, man. I definitely agree with that. You can't say enough about, how special that backcourt was with him and John Wall. I mean, that was money. And you hit the nail on the head where they never made that one big move to push him over the top. That Paul George move, that Klay Thompson move, you know what I mean? And so I'm with you on that. And you definitely have to give him credit, how much work he's done off the court. Him and John are both notoriously known. Goes back to Gimmer Arenas. He's another guy. Now Jordan Poole, who they've done a lot of work in the DC community. And if you look at what the Wizards are doing now, not only, working with kids and doing for the kids in the community in DC, but also the Commonwealth of Virginia and the state of Maryland. So I agree with you. I'm a big Bradley Beal guy. To me, my trinity when it comes to the Wizards is going to be Gilbert Arenas, John Wall, Bradley Beal. I'm an 85 baby, man. So I don't know much about Weston Seld in the 78 I wasn't even around. And then when I was born, I wasn't even worried about basketball at that point. So to me, it all started, my fandom really started with Gilbert Arenas when I was, making that step to become a young man. So I'm with you on that. But let me say this, and I'm going to kind of respond to each comment that he made. But I agree. I agree that, a lot of people do give him a lot of smoke. But I will say this also. He doesn't do himself any favors also. Some of these comments he makes are like, and when you look at the contract is much hated. And I agree with you. It's kind of, the other side of the coin, the flip side of the coin, right? One hand, Tommy Shepard signed it. He offered a contract. Taylor Leonce has signed off on that. So they are not guilt-free. But, I mean, if you look at, the stars in the history of the NBA who took less for them to build around them, I mean, Dirk Nowitzki's a guy. LeBron James, the guy's done it. Tim Duncan's a guy I mentioned. So, there's guys who have made that sacrifice for them to have the money to free up, and brings, and actually surround them with talent. So I'm with you. Right now, if you show me a contract of $250 million, man, look, where do we sign, right? But like I said, I'm gonna go over the comments real quick because there's his body. To me, what rubbed me the wrong way, Bradley Beal. Like I said, I love me some Bradley Beal, but his body language at times and some things he said have rubbed people the wrong way. Looking at the first comment, all right, you get to a point where you're like, you're going to lose anyway. I mean, bro, you signed a contract. You knew what you're getting yourself into, and that wasn't his first extension. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if he was so worried about the losing culture, how many extensions did he sign? And that's that. I mean, it's one thing to say that, but then it's like when you're getting blown out by 30 points and you're giggling with Jason Tatum. I mean, that's on him. You know what I mean? That's bad body language, man. That gives bad signals to a fan base where it's like, all right, you got the contract, you got your money, but we want to see some level of seriousness. You know what I mean? Like, you're getting blown out by your childhood buddy. I don't see you smiling. Like, Jordan, look, do you imagine Michael Jordan smiling, getting blown out? Ain't happening. Kobe Bryant ain't smiling, getting blown out. It ain't happening. So that's one thing. Next thing with the next quote, where he kind of gave praise to the front office. And rightly so. But, the new front office has done their thing, man. Will Dawkins, man, he's done an immaculate job. Few things here and there may be questionable, but overall, he's done a great job. But the comment, I think there's kind of a cornballish comment with him. I mean, this is probably one of the most respectful things I've heard in 11 years. When Tommy Shepard says, "Do you want to sign for $250 million?" To me, that's the nicest thing I've ever heard somebody tell me. I'm just saying, but I do like the fact that he praises the new front office because, like I said, from all the people I've talked to that aren't part of Wiz fandom or the fan base, high marks for what this front office is doing. So I'm not going to hit Brad on that. And then in the third comment, the whole thing about Khris Middleton, why would somebody want to trade the no trade clause to go to Washington? Come on, bro. Like, you either hate us or love us. And that's what I'm saying, Greg. Is like I do like Bradley Beal. I fully appreciate what he's done in the Wizards uniform. Absolutely. And especially, the fact that he's done so much for the community because Washington, D.C. is historically a community that has been hurting for a long time. So, people going out here putting that work in. I love it, man. It's just the bad body language. It's just these little comments, off the cuff comments. It's like, I don't think they're necessary because this fan base was very, very, they loved Bradley Beal and John Wall. There was a lot of love for them in DC, man. Now, you could argue probably more so John Wall than Bradley Beal to a certain degree, but, he got his money. He signed how many extensions? He made a lot of money here in DC. And yes, you can argue that they didn't surround him with talent. I definitely agree with that. But to me, it's as a fan, even as a basketball analyst, it's all about body language, man. And you expect certain things out of your star player. Yes, we both know he won the number one option. And now he's your number 3 option. And even then, it's tough times in Phoenix because, yeah, they finally got a point guard, but, you only got one ball. and trying to find touches for all 3 of those guys are going to be hard in Phoenix, man. But like I said, Bradley Beal, I do wish him well. There's no ill will. Definitely was a guy who cheered for him when he came back. But to me, it's body language, man. He gave the wrong messages to a lot of people, and I think the heals will wound, the wounds will heal over time. Kind of like John Wall, kind of like Gilbert Arenas. Gilbert Arenas and John Wall both left with a cloud of some issues, and then and Gilbert Arenas came back in the fold, and John Wall, hopefully they bring him back in some capacity at some point. But I think it will be all right. I think long term, Bradley Beal will get come back to where he get love, but. Again, Greg, he does not do himself any favors, man. So that's my biggest thing. It's like, the body language is the biggest thing with him. But I'm much appreciative over his time here in DC. Like I said, I don't think that. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna. The body language is something that I fully agree with you with. There was a point from like 2017 to like 2019 where all you see is just the memes of Brad like head down, sulking. It's like. You've decided you can sulk, but like you're going to sulk home to your multi-million-dollar mansion and you're sitting on $350 million in career earnings. Like, yeah, you could be upset, but again, like you said it perfectly, this is what you signed up for. When you took $50 million a year, you can't expect them to build a competent winner around you. You are a number 3 option. People like you are making $25 to $30 million a year. You're making 50. If you really cared about winning, you would take a pay cut. And look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you not to get your bread because you earned it. Yeah. You got offered it. And I'm not saying don't take it. But at the end of the day, like you can't have it both ways where it's like, oh, pity me, my team sucks. Everyone around me is terrible. The reason that they're so bad is because they're paying a number 3, number 4 option, number 1 money. And you knew that when they signed you. Brad had to know, like, there's zero chance that me making $50 million a year, they're going to be able to build anything around me. There's just no way. That's Kevin Durant, Luka, LeBron money. Bradley Beal's nowhere near that tier. And so he knew what he was signing up for. So to sit there and sulk the entire game and then after the game, like dap everyone up, like, get me out of here. I hate it here and I want to go to a contender. Then go to a contender. We, all Wizards fans, for so long, ever since honestly John got hurt and you knew it wasn't going to work, trade Bradley Beal. You can get 3 to 4 firsts, 3 to 4 pick swaps, young talent. But Bradley Beal was like, no, I want to be here because you're the only team dumb enough to pay me $50 million a year and give me a no trade clause. So like, again, you can't have it both ways. You can't be out here saying like, oh, like I hated the culture we were building. We all knew we were going to lose. You knew you were going to lose because you were making $50 million a year and everyone else on your team wasn't good. That's the reason. So like you said, you can't have it both ways. And for him to kind of still be talking about it as if he wasn't a problem in it, that is, I think, what's rubbing a lot of fans the wrong way.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I agree 100% with you, man. So I think that, to me, the best package for him was the year we traded Russell Westbrook to the Lakers. When they had that package where I believe it was with the number 7 and the 14th pick, Wiggins and I believe Wiseman, I would have took that deal. Because number 7 and 14 ended up being Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga, which I think that we would be in a really good position, which I think we're in a good position now, but you kind of see where I'm going, man. So, like I said, his legacy is always going to be John Wall and Bradley Beal era. He burned a lot of bridges on the way out, but I think time heals all wounds. So we're going to look at NBA GMs around the league had a lot to say about Bub Carrington, man. So we're going to talk about that. But before we do, tonight's episode is brought to you by Gametime. So you guys know, look, I'm a big ticket guy, man. I go to games all the time. To me, Gametime is the go-to app above other apps. And I ain't going to name drop nobody, but there's 3 reasons why. Number 1, Gametime picks. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports tickets, but not only sports events, concerts, comedy shows, theater events, etc. Seat views. Get a view from your seat in the app before you buy, so you know exactly what your view is and if you're getting your money's worth. What else? The lowest price guarantee, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Good Lord. So look, do yourself a favor. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDON NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDON NBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime, baby. All right, everybody, let's get back into it. All right, so there was a poll around the league, Greg, and a lot of high marks for Bub Carrington and company, man. And overall, I'll say this, man, before we get into the polls, a lot of people like what the Wizards are doing. Finally hitting that reset button, rebuilding the right way, the long way. Will Dog said himself, man, when I covered the event over before Media Day, it was just him. And he said, look, this team's going to get younger soon. And we're looking at the deadline. At the deadline and going into next year's offseason, they're going to move 3/4 of these veterans, and it's going to get a much younger team. So let me pull up the article real quick, because like I said, Bub Carrington, before they even came out with the poll, a lot of people are already saying that he could be the sleeper pick in his draft just because it's just, the dog factor, his scoring ability. So let me pull it up. All right, so the first poll real quick, it says, which rookie was the biggest steal at where he was selected in the draft? And tied for first place is Bub Carrington, Devin Carter of the Sacramento Kings, and Jonathan Furphy of the Indiana Pacers, and Dalton Knecht. And the German to me wants to call him Knecht because that's the German way, but I guess it's Knecht, right? But no, that's good company because, like I said, all 4 of these guys can play. But and let's take a look at the second one real quick. And now the second one was who will win the 2024 to 2025 Rookie of the Year. Number 1 is obviously Reed Sheppard, but getting votes was Ron Holland the second from Detroit and Alex Sarr for the Wizards. So the Summer League didn't scare everybody off. And then it says which rookie would be the best player in 5 years. Number 1 is Reed Sheppard of Houston, but number 4 is Bub Carrington, and also tied for number 4 is Alex Sarr. So, Greg, are these polls kind of giving you an indicator of what the league, how they feel about what the Wizards are trying to do? And looking at this draft class, how special can this draft class be in the next 3 to 5 years?
Looking at the GM poll, I mean, people are really high on Bub Carrington, and you kind of saw it gradually shift. I mean, the beginning of the season, he was kind of an unknown, high potential freshman, but not talked about too much, and he's slowly but surely building his way up. I mean, his first college game, he had a triple-double. So he was good from the jump, slowly building his way up through the first round. And then you get to a week before, and you usually see 1 or 2 guys like this where they're mocked in that 18 to 23 range, and then boom, they shoot up to lottery. And if you don't know, the Wizards had him in literally the night before the draft. And then they were like, this guy is unbelievable. We need to do something. And they traded Denny Avdia, of all people, because they thought this guy was so good. We need to move back into the first round, back into the lottery to take him. So clearly they have a liking to him. And the whole league was on it too, because if the Wizards thought that nobody else knew about Bub Carrington, they could have traded up to 18, 19, 20 and kept Denny Avdia. But they were like, we know people want him. It's the same thing that happened with Bilal. Utah was right on their backs trying to get him, and they're like, we need to move up to take him before they do. So it's this sense around the league, obviously, that Bub Carrington was going to be great, and I think that's why the Wizards moved up, and that's kind of been reflected in the GM poll as well. He's getting talked about with guys who were taken in the top 5, and he was taken 14th. I think his really good summer league showing has a lot to do with that. He looked like the best player on the court for most of those games. But one of the other things that I did take away, the league's really high on Reed Sheppard. And I think that's going to be a talking point, I wouldn't say forever, but for the next couple of years, because my guy Wizards Film Room, he is the biggest Reed Sheppard guy. Talked to him at the draft about it. He wanted the Wizards to take Reed Sheppard. Again, I've been saying this the entire time. Like, Reed Shepard's going to be unbelievable. He's the best shooter in the draft. He's phenomenal offensive talent, and I think he's going to be really good. I think you get into like this toxic comparison thing. You see it in the NFL right now. Jaden Daniels can't do one thing without Bears fans saying he didn't do it the right way. He can't make progressions. And that's just like, that's unhealthy. If I'm talking to Wizards fans, like, appreciate Alex Sarr. He's going to take some time, but he's going to be really good on both ends of the floor. And also appreciate a guy like Reed Shepard, a guy like Zachary Ricochet. Like, you're not competing against the Rockets and the Hawks. You're competing against yourself. You're developing talent. So, like, why people are consistently making those comparisons, I get it. But, like, I hope Reed Shepard is really good. And even if he turns into Steph Curry, I'm still going to sit here and tell you Alex Sarr was the right pick, and I wouldn't be mad that they took a 7'1" guy, a terrific shot blocker who can shoot the three ball already. He's 50% through 2 preseason games, but nobody's going to talk about that. I'll talk about it. He's shooting really well. His offense is getting better. The summer league stuff kind of seems to be behind him. And I'll sit here, and even if Reed Shepard's a Hall of Famer, I'd still tell you that I think the Wizards made the right pick at that time. So again, I think you're kind of getting to see, like, the league's really high on Reed Shepard, but like, Sarr's not an afterthought. He's right up there. Bub Carrington is up there, and he hasn't even played in a regular season game. He's skyrocketed from pretty much the 14th pick to a guy who's being talked about with the number 1, number 2, number 3 guys already. So I think that's my biggest takeaway, is how high the league is on Bub already as compared to some of the other fringe lottery guys that clearly aren't in that stratosphere right now.
Look, man, I agree with you, man. Easy. I agree with you. And I'm with you. I hate the comparisons, especially in basketball in the NFL, man. I hate the comparisons. Let Jaden Daniels be Jaden Daniels. Let Lamar Jackson be Lamar Jackson. Why do people always have to compare to somebody, man? Like, let them be themselves. And I think that's a lot of pressure on a young player. We saw that with Denny. We see that with Bub. We see that Alex Sarr in Black Coulibaly, where confidence is key in a young player. Denny, man, when his confidence was low, he was unplayable at times. When it was high, you saw that breakout. And look at that, these young guys we have here, man. Blau, Tristan Vucevic, Bub. Alex Sarr, Keyshawn George. That's another guy, man. He's been playing good basketball. I think that with the Keyshawn George pick and Bub Carrington and the Denny, like I said, I wasn't happy about the Denny move, but I understand the Denny move. Like, I love Bub Carrington. I think that getting another first round pick in 2029 was key. Malcolm Brogdon, he's hurt now, but I think he will be a good mentor. So I understand the trade, and I agree with the trade, even though I was a really big Denny guy. But let me say this. This draft is important. To me, is more important than 2025 and 2026. And rock with me, because I know that 25 and 26 are definitely a lot more talent, but you got a lot of depth in this draft. Keyshawn George, him and Corey Kispert are a nice little tandem in that second unit, man. Him and Corey Kispert, look, sign Corey Kispert, re-sign him. We need him here. Keep him, because him and George, man, are a nice 1-2 punch on that second unit. Looking at Bub, man, he's his dog. He's a dog. Give him some time, because all 3 of these guys are going to have growing pains. A lot of people, and here's the thing, Wizards fans and Washington sports fans, period, don't have patience. And number one, we've never been through a proper rebuild. Gilbert Arenas was a coin flip away from not being a Wizard or being a Wizard. And again, we never went past the second round with him, because we never surrounded him with the talent. I was always a firm believer that either A, we should have developed Kwame Brown right, or B, go get that center to help out Jameson, Caron Butler, and Gilbert Arenas. And looking at John Wall, we needed a one piece, man, that Paul George, that Klay Thompson move. And to me, that's a championship team. So, but here's the thing, we've never been through a proper rebuild. Tommy Shepard, Ernie Grunfeld gave away first round picks like it's nothing. They weren't the best at evaluating talent, either in the draft or even in the trade game. So, like I said, they're doing it the right way. They're taking their time. Development is key. Culture is key. They're doing it all the right way, man. So, like I said, I'm a big believer in Will Dawkins. Big believer in head coach Brian Keefe. I was a big catalyst for him getting the job, because I knew before he even got the job, I said, this is the guy. This is how he was around the players. What kind of reaction he got for the players. How he established a culture. How he established a standard, man, which we didn't have under Wes Unseld Jr. And there's nothing against Wes. I don't want to kick a man while he's down, but it is what it is. Like, this was a whole new team in the second half of last season, man. So I'm with you on that. 2025 is very important. That draft is very important, man. Everybody says Cooper Flagg a bust. To me, I'm not making it Cooper Flagg a bust, even though number 1 overall, even at 2, you grab Cooper Flagg if he's available. You grab him, man. You run to the podium. But to me, Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey, man, are a couple players who can definitely make this a better team. So, to me, in closing real quick, man, this year's draft was a really good draft class, because Keyshawn George is a dog, man. He's a sniper. You just see the scoring mentality with him. Alex Sarr's gonna be all right. Everybody was ready to call this man a bust after 5 summer league games. And this man, you see the potential. When he finally figures out a consistent offensive game, this kid has star potential. I'm telling you, Bub Carrington, his instincts, just his mind, his basketball IQ is through the roof, man. I mean, the kid can play. And Bilal, same thing, same thing as Alex Sarr. When he finds a consistent game, he's going to be a star. He's going to be good, man. So you have 3 guys who have star potential, and we haven't even got to Cooper Flag yet. So the team is heading in the right direction. I'm telling you, 2027, we are going to be a playoff team. And that's why I think that the 2025 and 2026 drafts are that important, because this young core we already have is money, man. I'm trying to tell you, they are money. So, all right, we're going to get into a couple of predictions real quick, man, before we roll tonight. But before we do, tonight's episode is brought to you. There we go. Brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live, play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Is that easy? You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. And thank you guys for making Locked On Wizards your first listen day. I appreciate y'all. For your second listen, find Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Become a fantasy basketball expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Josh Lloyd. Find Locked On Fantasy Basketball on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, let's get back into this thing, man. So predictions real quick. Like I said, regular season's right around the corner, man. That time right now. It's that time again, Greg, man. I know I'm excited. I know you're excited. Regular season right around the corner. It's going to be a long season, but we're going to have a growing pains. But a couple of predictions real quick. How many games do you – I guess we'll go over and under 20 wins this season. What you got?
I got 21. I sat down because I had a couple people have been asking me for my prediction, and I was giving them like different numbers, and I'm like, let me sit down and give you my prediction. So this has been my prediction for a while. It's going to stay my prediction. I got them at 21 and 61. Again, I think they're a better team. They don't have as many of those like holdover veterans from trades. They've got actual veterans, and I mean, you don't have Mike Muscala and Gallinari. You have Valanciunas. You don't have Tyus Jones, but you have Malcolm Brogdon. Obviously, he's hurt now, but he's a great vet. You still have Kuz. You still have Poole. Corey Kispert coming off the bench. This is a lot better team, I think, than last year. My only concern is like so many people are going to get traded. There's going to be injuries. They're going to be really cautious with those injuries. And I don't think they're going to be too concerned with winning. I wouldn't say with winning games, but like with doing everything they possibly can to put out the best product. So again, I think beginning of the season, they'll be a lot more competitive. And like you saw last year, the Wizards didn't win a game in February once they made some trades and kind of blew everything up. So I got them at 21 wins. I'm curious to see what you would say, but yeah, I got 21.
I can rock with that, man. I mean, they are a better team. Now, I said this time and time again, just like you just mentioned, man. There's two. It's kind of like the book Tale of Two Cities, man. It's Tale of Two Halves, right? First half, when you have a lot of these vets in the roster, you're going to get most of your wins in the first half. Second half, when they get younger, when you trade most of these vets, it's going to be a youth movement, and it's going to be a lot of growing pains. But it's needed, man, because once they start that youth movement and give extended minutes to Bilal, Alex Sarr, Bub Carrington, Keyshawn George, them getting extended minutes is going to help with their development. And they're finally going to be able to get in there and build that chemistry, man, because long term they're going to be that core. Now, obviously, we're going to add to it, the next couple of drafts, but the chemistry is important. And like I said, you get this is the first full season under Brian Keefe. And like I said, I'm a big catalyst to him because, like I said, I saw how they responded to him, and just talking to him, man, he knows his X's and O's. Look at his resume. I mean, you go to Oklahoma City, James Harden, development is because of him. Kevin Durant, he owes a lot to his development to Brian Keefe. Russell Westbrook, you know what I mean? The list goes on. KP, Brandon Ingram, his resume speaks for itself. Development should be important. Is your first, second, and third option right now. Development is key because we have to develop this young talent, and we have the right head coach. Now, we'll see if he's the long-term option, because right now I look at it as a similar situation as Brett Brown with the 76ers, man. Where he was a developmental coach, and he came in, and then when they were ready to make that jump, they went and got a Doc Rivers, that big coach. But I'm hoping he can prove that he could be that guy, because, like I said, I get good vibes from Brian Keefe, man. He's a guy that knows what he's doing. He knows how to develop young talent, and they're definitely heading in the right direction, man. It's kind of like the Commanders, right? New owner, no more Dan Snyder, right? A new GM, Adam Peters, is cooking like an air fryer, right? Dan Quinn and a whole new staff. I mean, and the same thing with the Wizards. You got a whole new front office where they prioritize development and scouting, which we are notoriously bad for both. You know what I mean? So we're heading in the right direction. So one more over and under for you real quick, and we're going to go ahead and call it a night. Over and under 7 assists for Jordan Poole this season.
I'm gonna go slightly over. I'm gonna go
Okay.
slightly over. But if you gave me a turnovers as well, I would probably take the over too, because
Yeah.
it's a guy that it's pretty clear he's still learning the position at the starter level, and it's like, even if he turns the ball over a lot, it's not gonna be like, let's blow it up, let's trade him, like he's
Yeah.
terrible. But you don't get to Tyus Jones level of like assist to turnover ratio like that. You got to take some time. And honestly, it's not just him, the whole team. They just turned the ball over 30 times last game against the Knicks. Like, this whole team has been pretty sloppy with the ball, not in the right spots. And that's usually going to be the point guard getting those turnovers. So again, I'm going to take the over just because I think he's going to play a lot. He's going to start. He showed he can distribute the ball. He showed he can run the offense. So I'm going to take the over on assists. But if you said the turnovers at around like 2 a game, I definitely take the over 2. And that's not an indictment on Jordan Poole either. I think he's going to get a lot of assists, but I also think if you're passing at that volume, with such a young team, I think you're also going to have a lot of turnovers. And I think you need to talk about the turnovers if you're also going to praise him for the assists.
Absolutely. Great point. Great point. I'm going to take the under. I'm going to go with 6 assists, but I will take the over with turnovers. I think it's going to be a transitional year for Jordan Poole. We know he could be that scorer. That's not even an issue. We know that JP13 can be that scorer. But now being the man, being the quarterback, in basketball, the quarterback's the point guard. He's the guy that dictates pace. He's the guy that runs the plays. There's a lot of integral parts of being a point guard. And I think that, Michael Brogdon was a good move because you got a veteran guy who's been there and done that. He's been a starter. He's been a 6-man. He's going to not only teach him, but he's going to do wonders for Bub Carrington and Jared Butler. So I think that Michael Brogdon was a really good move, but he's got to learn to be a point guard as opposed to a scoring-minded combo guard, which was, what he was last year. I think he is the future at point guard. I think, Will Dawkins himself said that they're going to invest heavily in a backcourt of Jordan Poole and Bub Carrington. And if you look, Bub Carrington plays well with off ball. I think they could be a really good backcourt. Because look, one thing I noticed about Bub Carrington with his past preseason game, his energy on the defensive side of the ball is on point. Like he is he a lockdown right now? Nah, but he's going to get that. He shows the energy. You see the dog factor. And you see that with Bilal. There's that prowess on defense, man. Bilal's a monster on defense. His instincts, his ability to get in the passing lanes. Alex Sarr with his ability to be a rim protector. So, like I said, I'm with you. I think that Jordan Poole is going to have a lot of growing pains, but I think he would definitely. Me personally, I think he's going to get votes for most improved player. I think he's going to put the league on those because last year, very up and down roller coaster season, man. Caught a lot of heat, caught a lot of smoke in the first half, but second half under Brian Keith, they were 1 or 2 in pace. They pushed the ball and they did well. They were a better team. And when he was reverted to 6-man, he showed out. He showed what he can do. And then when Tyus went down with a back injury and he started at point guard, he showed the capabilities how good his team could be when they push the pace. Because look, we're spoiled here in DC, man. We have point guards who, or speedsters, man, who attack, and utilize guys on the outside. John Wall made a lot of people money. I mean, without John Wall, I don't know if Otto Porter gets that contract. You know what I'm saying? Like Bradley Beal, people forget that Bradley Beal for a long time was a catch and shoot guy coming out of Florida. It took a while for him to kind of develop that part, working on his ball handling, working on mid-range, working on other integral parts of his game of being a shot creator. And now he's that, he's more well-rounded 2 guard. But people forget that he was set up a lot by John Wall. Same thing, Kelly Oubre. The list goes on. John Wall made a lot of money for a lot of people. Same thing with Gilbert Arenas. 1 year Russell Westbrook. That was a magical year, 1 year, because he broke the record. I mean, he averaged a triple-double. So we're used to having faster point guards. So the success to this team, in my opinion, is pushing the pace. So, all right, man, we're going to go ahead and call it a night, man. Like I said, I appreciate you, man. And I always have a good time when you come on the show, man. So, like I said, I wanted to reach out to you and say, man, let's get Greg back on the show, man. Let's chop it up. So, before we roll, man, anything you want to plug?
Yeah, I mean, first, thank you, Brandon, for having me on. I love listening to the show, even when I'm not on it. Obviously, I love being on it too. Anytime Brandon asks me to be on, I always say yes because I enjoy talking hoops with Brandon, talking about the Wiz. So again, appreciate you for having me on. I mean, in terms of plug, I mean, you can go to Bullets Forever. I think we do a lot of really good work there in terms of covering the team. So I definitely check that out. You can listen to me. It's the Wizards podcast. It's not as cool of a name as Brandon. It's pretty generic, but it's all I can come up with. So yeah, it's the Wizards podcast. If you want to find Wizards content after you listened, obviously, to Locked On Wizards, you can come over to my place, and I'm gonna pretty much do weekly, 2 times a week, just all things Wizards. So yeah, you can find me on there. It's on Apple, Spotify, all the generic stuff.
Man, y'all don't listen to him, man. This man has some good content. So you definitely holler at my guy, Greg, man, because like I said, his podcast is rolling, man. Good work on the Bulls forever. And like I said, he is a Penn State Nittany Lion, man. My dad's favorite school, so definitely get points for that, man. So like I said, I always have fun with you, man. You know what you're talking about. You're doing good things. And like I said, keep pushing, man, because you are the young prospect when it comes to content creation for the Wizards, man. So you're the next man up. You are that young prospect that we're all looking to see what you can do, man. So like I said, definitely appreciate you anytime you come on the show. So all right, everybody, you guys get in the comment section. Let us know what you guys think, man, about what we covered tonight. We covered a lot. Bradley Beal, what is his legacy here in DC? And how good can this draft class be? Time will tell, but I think we're definitely heading in the right direction. So we will see everybody tomorrow night. We're going to do a live recap of tomorrow night's third preseason game. So definitely check that out. So all right, everybody, hail to the Wizards and peace. See everybody tomorrow night.